Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 91. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Good to be back with you guys for this Friday show. Dave, I'll be honest, I thought we would be coming into the show with a little bit more news than we did, but we still have certainly some news, including a very interesting development that you pointed out this morning over on Twitter, and also a very happy start of March Madness to you as well.
Yeah, I haven't. Did it get started last night or not? Or was it
I think the play-in games were last night. The first round really officially kicks off today. Who you picking to win it all here?
Not Duke.
Not Duke. Okay, safe bet.
I haven't even looked at it, man. I got to be honest with you. Been so tied up. I don't even know if I'll get a chance to watch any of these any of these games today. Obviously, with a lot going on with the Steelers and specifically just the NFL in general, I guess with free agency and all like that, and kind of seeing what some of these moves and if anything else is going to happen. I mean, you're right. We haven't had a lot of news to talk about Steelers related, but we knew there wasn't going to be, right? I mean, we weren't expecting kind of this avalanche of things, and we've already covered, a few of the surprises, really, with Mike Hilton getting a little bit less than what we thought he would get from the Bengals, and Tyson Alualu not re-signing with the Steelers, instead going to Jacksonville on a pretty nice contract for him, and then we've got a couple new developments since the last show.
We do, and the reason why I say things are a little bit slow because I thought, a guy like JuJu would have signed by now, and we could talk about that. But as you mentioned, we do have a very interesting development and a re-signing today. Let's start with the former of that, with Cam Sutton's contract. Initially, we knew the terms of the deal were reported as 2 years, $9 million, very standard fare, as expected for Sutton. What wasn't expected, as you found out this morning, are a couple of voidable years attached to that contract. But I'll let you explain all the details of his contract.
Yeah, three additional voidable years. Now, none of this has been filed with the NFLPA. At least none of it has hit the NFLPA site yet. Okay, and that's just the side that the fan can see and kind of the public data. Now, normally after a signing happens, 2 or 3 days after it happens, it's submitted and then it gets processed, and then you can just do the math on the NFLPA site that way. Well, none of that's happened yet. In fact, there's several moves outstanding as far as that goes, because if you look at the NFLPA public salary cap report page right now, it shows the Steelers at 5.657086, almost 5.7 million under the cap. Well, we know that's not true, right? And they also only show 57 players under contract right now, whereas the Steelers, based on everything, all that's happened right now, they have 60 players under contract. They're not showing B.J. Finney. They're not showing Cameron Sutton. They're not showing Chris Wormley, who just we're going to get to in a minute here. And they're also not accounting for the deduction of one Vince Williams, which we've already talked about as well too here. So the most interesting aspect here is with the Cameron Sutton contract is, this is a 5-year deal. None of the numbers have changed in the first 2 years as far as the base salaries and the signing bonus goes. But the fact that there's 3 voidable years on this now, I mean, they only save a little over $1 million in cap space overall. I mean, that's not a lot, and let's get it out there. I mean, we see what they just did with the Ben Roethlisberger redo, and we've been calling for that to happen since August, right? August of last year. That wasn't a surprise because of the contract, because of how they needed to get the cap number down, and because the amount of cap savings they would have that way. What's going on here with Cam Sutton that you have to add 3 voidable years like that when you have players out there that you can restructure And why do all this for just $1 million in cap savings?
Mm-hmm. It's a very good question. It's a clear and obvious aggressive approach to create as much cap space as humanly possible. The more interesting question is, what are you going to do with that extra cap space? And could that be, trying to do something with JuJu potentially, or just having more freedom and flexibility to sign some low-level guys, considering the way your roster's been gutted? But an obvious aggressive approach to uncover and overturn every stone to create as much cap space as possible. But yeah, this one surprised me.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of Omar Khan looking under the couch cushion.
Yeah, really, honestly.
I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, they're tight against the cap. Yeah, we knew that they would be, and let's add part two to this as well too. The news, and then kind of tie all this up in a bow here. They announced that they had re-signed, or they haven't announced yet, or have they? Has it been official?
No, not official.
Yeah, not official yet, but there's a report out there from a guy that I think from Chris Wormley's hometown, reporter. Chris Wormley has all but said that he has signed a 2-year extension with the Steelers, and in fact, those numbers have kind of been filed to the NFLPA on top of it. So it's a 2-year deal with Wormley. Did I say extension or new contract? It's a new contract. But regardless, and this is something that you and I have talked about and said, man, Chris Wormley owes the Steelers some snaps, right? And I kind of envision, I think even way back in January, I wrote about, don't be surprised if they re-signed Chris Wormley on the cheap. Well, they have re-signed him, and the team should make that official soon. But here's the thing about it. I mean, yeah, it is a cheap deal. It's a 2-year, $4.5 million deal, and you're probably saying, man, that is cheap, Dave. Why are you splitting hairs here? Well, the fact is, kind of expected it to be a little bit cheaper than that, and really expected his first year cap charge in 2021 to come in around, I don't know, 1.25 million, 1.5 million at the most. Well, the details of his deal, which included, let's see, he gets $1 million in 2021, $2.3 million in 2022, and he got a $1.2 million signing bonus. Now, once again, you look at that and you say, man, that's cheap, Dave, and yeah, it is, but it still produces a $1.6 million cap charge, which is probably, I don't know, $300,000 or more than what I kind of expected it to be. Now, what drove the price up on him? Look, he had a little bit of bargaining power there to some degree, or else he would have just signed a minimum value deal here. Was he able to drive it up because of the familiarity, because of knowing that the team saw Tyson Alualu walk out the door? It's possible. It's way hard to read way too deep in somebody getting $300,000 more than what you thought they might get, but it's significant nonetheless because it eats a little bit more into a little bit more salary cap space that you thought they would have there. Now, him only getting a 1.2 million signing bonus, are we going to find out in a few more days that there's 3 voidable years on that? Just to I mean, what do you really save? Not much. But by doing 3 voidable years, but it would be just another piece of evidence that, man, they really are digging up underneath the salary cap couch cushions per se here. But bringing this all home, maybe the fact that Chris Wormley did cost a little bit more than what they thought he would cost.
Zach Banner wasn't as cheap as we envisioned.
Right, and Zach Banner really not maybe as cheap as what we initially envisioned. Maybe they're thinking, look, we want to try to get some of these lower level signings done, maybe 3 or 4 more of them, that even though they won't push the cap needle much, we're going to need a little bit of cap space to do that with there. Because, I mean, once again, What are you going to do with $1 million extra in cap space there? Unless you're trying to, stack little,
Exactly.
quarter, rolls of quarters here and then and then go get a big gulp or something, But do you know what a big gulp is? You don't know what Circle K's are, do you?
Ooh, vaguely. I'm more of a icy kind of guy. Was my time with the frozen drinks.
Okay, yeah, I grew up. Little Generals were the convenience store when I grew up down in the South there. And Little Generals, you go up there, and obviously the icy machines and all like that. And Circle K's, obviously, on through my high school years, were a big convenience store, and they had Big Gulp. That was one of the original places that had, you go in and get them fountain drinks like 64 ounces and all. So anyway, back to the cap issue here. JuJu remains unsigned. Look, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You get me?
I do. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do the voidable years with Sutton, you might as well do it with Wormley too. Why do one with one and not with the other? And I think it's $1 million for Sutton. It's only going to be probably less of that with Wormley. But as you said, doing those things in combination, they add up over time with the more players you do and all the avenues you explore to take $1 million here, $500,000 there, et cetera, et cetera. So that might be the team's approach. So we'll have to see on the more details on Wormley's deal, but I think that's their philosophy. Is we still have some moves to make. Our roster's been pretty well gutted, and even if we don't go out there and sign JuJu, if we need to sign a lower level tight end or an edge or whatever, that extra $1 million we just created might help us do that. So I think that's the team's approach.
Sure, and you obviously want to do it now with before the contract's filed and all, so you get the maximum benefit. It's just an interesting development overall, and especially with the fact that, look, I think we agree at some point, we still think during the offseason that this team's going to restructure the contract there's no way around it, right? I mean, with Tuitt, with Boswell, with the expenses, because make no mistake about it, the predictable expenses past free agency are just that. They're predictable expenses. I mean, on the low side, we're looking at $13 million, I think, that the Steelers still need to account for. Mm-hmm. And right now, they don't have next to anything to go toward that, and that's even after the Vince Williams contract termination and all like that as well too. So this is a little bit curious, to say the least, and once again, I'm not saying that this is going to result in a re-signing of JuJu here, but I mean, we know how low they can potentially get that first year cap number on JuJu on say a 5-year deal, right?
Well, what is that number? How low?
If we're looking at a guy that let's say his market's around $15 million right now, I mean, you could get that cap number even the way the Steelers like to do contracts at around, I would say, $4.5 million or so. And
post-displacement?
No, that's pre-displacement. So you're looking at maybe around 3.9 around in that post-displacement. So, I mean, you have to think about the plausibility in there and whether or not, because of what's happening here, and especially with JuJu remaining unsigned and there being reports out there the Steelers want to retain him and yada, yada. Once again, I'm not saying, I'm just saying all of this needs to – it'll be easy. I'll tell you what, it'll be easy to connect the dots after the fact. But, that's not what we're paid to do. We're kind of paid to kind of speculate about this. So is it anything – I more than them just trying to maximize every bit of cap space that they can? It might be just that and that only, and it might be a little bit of extra space here to re-sign a lot of these minimum value guys that'll barely move the cap needle. We'll see.
Yeah, this could be about JuJu. It also, I think, is equally likely just to be about being able to sign multiple, 2 or 3 lower level guys and creating a cap space to do that. So we'll see. And just to pass along just a tweet from Adam Schefter, because news is going to move so fast here. He is saying the Ravens have reached out to Kenny Galladay about potential deal there. So Galladay and JuJu, basically the top 2 receivers left for the board, with Curtis Samuel going to Washington, Will Fuller signing a 1-year deal with Miami yesterday. So we are on, full Galladay JuJu watch over here.
Absolutely. And you would think by Monday, JuJu's going to be signed somewhere, right?
I would think so. I thought it was going to happen yesterday. I thought yesterday was going to be the big wide receiver day, and to an extent it was, with Samuel and Fuller getting locked up. But yeah, just still surprised on JuJu. And that doesn't mean that his market's going to come crashing down. He's going to take some super low value. It could still be just negotiation and things like that. But it is obvious that who's been the highest paid receiver so far? Has it been Corey Davis at 13 something million?
I think it may have. I'll have to look at the list.
So, and Galladay's market seems to be iffy right now with some questions about his hip injury he had last year. He's taken a visit with the Giants, taken a physical with the Giants, I should say, visited with the Bears. Now the Ravens reportedly are interested as well. Cincinnati has thrown their hat into the ring. So JuJu may come in lower than what I thought. That kind of feels more likely right now, but it doesn't mean he's going to take, he's not taking $8 million per season.
Right, and let's be clear here. Still, there's a lot. If people thinking that they're going to get JuJu signed to a 1-year contract, the Steelers, I mean, you better come up with some more coins underneath the cushion there, because a 1 year. Now, could you do something on a 1-year contract and then 4 voidable and all like that? But once again, with the kind of signing bonus, with the kind of money that they'd have to give JuJu in 2021 to do a 1-year contract with 4-year voidable, do you really want to set yourself up for that kind of dead money?
Well, let me ask you this, because now that we know the voidable years are at least possible, what would be the lowest cap charge, basically possible if you did some sort of voidable year deal with JuJu? Because it still feels like that would even be tough to do cap wise.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean, what would the 1 year value be? 14? Let's say 14.
Yeah. Okay. Go with 14.
All right. How are you going to pay him $14 million in 2021? You have to give him the minimal base salary, which I think is what for him for $990,000.
Mm-hmm. Just call it $1 million. Just
okay. Let's call it $1 million, and then the other 13 as a form of a signing bonus, right?
Right. So
all right. So what's 13 divided by 5?
Oh, starting math here early. 2.6.
All right. So add the 2.6 onto 1 million, 3.6 million that way.
Okay. I mean that's.
But look what you left over as far as potential dead money.
Right. Sure. And there's also one other reason to not do voidable years is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, when that contract voids and that player leaves, provided you don't re-sign him, you will not get a comp pick for him because he's been released.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So that's another reason, not maybe the main reason, but something to consider if you do these voidable years. So like when Cam Sutton, his contract is up, if there's no extension, they won't get a comp pick for Cam Sutton now, correct?
Unless they work something out in the meantime, because and look,
right.
This is just loose language that we know right now. Once again, we're talking about 5 days after the 2022 Super Bowl, right? So, unless and you would think that they would you would hate to lose him and not be able to go that route. That's another thing we'll probably have to ask Joel Corey about. But I couldn't imagine, because if a contract automatically voids like that, if that constitutes being available as a unrestricted free agent that still belongs to another team, you wouldn't think it would, right? Because the contract actually is voiding.
Right. Yeah. No, I had read that somewhere. I forget where I saw it. I don't know if it was I wasn't from Joel Corey, but somebody had said that these voidable years will not give you compensation if and when the player leaves. So and it makes sense because the contract is technically being terminated. The contract has not really expired in the traditional sense.
Right.
And then also, but JuJu, if you do the 1 year voidable year, this time next year, you're in the same boat and you're not, trying to work out a long-term deal with JuJu. So, there's a benefit to doing it, obviously, but there are some obvious downsides as well.
If you're going to get to this point anyway, why wouldn't you just put if you thought you wanted him back this bad and he's worth close to that amount of money, why wouldn't you just put the franchise tag on?
Well, I mean, you couldn't afford the franchise tag.
Well, I mean, but you see what I'm saying? It would be very un-Steeler-like in this situation for them to do this.
Yeah, but the Cam Sutton voidable years is un-Steeler-like. That one surprised me. Ben, we knew it was going to happen because you kind of didn't have a choice, but Sutton is a choice, and I did not see that one coming. Right.
Now, what I'm getting at, though, is I mean, I can understand it with the Ben, and it would make sense to them doing it for Sutton if we see a higher level signing come through, whether it be JuJu or whoever else, right?
Right. I think the more interesting question on JuJu is, if not Pittsburgh, then who? Because the market seems to be drying up just from the standpoint of we thought the Jets were going to be big players. That was a report from Ian Rappaport yesterday. The Jets were in serious conversations. They signed Corey Davis already. Then they signed Keenan Cole. It doesn't mean they can't sign JuJu, I imagine, but they're doing a lot of one-year deals to guys right now. They've already brought in 2 receivers. They could release Jameis and Crowder, but if it's not the Jets, then who else? Could it be Miami? Could it be, I think you mentioned Indy, potentially, but the just number of teams who could be available for JuJu seems to be getting smaller.
Right, exactly. I mean, how many teams are out there, and it's gone this long now? What are the Raiders doing? Don't the Raiders seem to be out of the running now at this point, based on moves that they've made?
Have they signed any receivers?
Well, didn't they do John Brown and?
Yeah, I don't know if John Brown would stop him from signing JuJu. It was a 1 year, I think $3.5 million deal. But the Dolphins went out there and signed Will Fuller, and they got Devontae Parker. So I mean, they could still sign JuJu, I guess, potentially, but it doesn't seem likely at this point. So in terms of actual suitors, the number's getting smaller. I
think the Raiders they re-inked Zay Jones, or at least there was a report. I think they were re-inking him. Don't they already have Hunter Renfrow? They got Henry Ruggs. They got John Brown now. They have seemed to be high on Keelan Doss and Brian Edwards. Didn't they draft him recently last year as well too? I mean, look, nothing said. There's no rules that says they're out of it,
Sure.
But you would think, man, I'm ultra hopped up this morning, ain't I?
It seems the same to me, but I'll take your word.
Okay.
The compliment.
But the Raiders appear to be out of it. You would think the Jets appear to be out of it. You would think the Dolphins. I mean,
just signed Fuller, and that was decent money. I mean, they have the cap space, but maybe because, I mean, Parker and Fuller are on the outside. JuJu play in the slot, so it's not like they're playing the same positions. But I kind of feel like the Dolphins are out of it.
All right. Wasn't there some rumblings about the Giants, maybe? Was that a team that there was a little bit of rumblings about the last week or so?
A little bit, but they have their sights on Galladay right now. We'll see what happens to him, but clearly they're very interested in signing Kenny Galladay.
And who else would be on this list? I mean, the Cardinals don't, the Cardinals seem to be out of it now, right? I mean, I think they got the cap space, but I mean, it just would appear with the moves that they've made so far this offseason. I don't know. Could the Broncos or the Titans or the Colts be? The Colts would be the most obvious, I would think, at this point, because also they got that other USC kid over there, Pittman, and all. And there's no word yet. I think there's a little bit of rumblings that maybe they were going to try to re-sign T.Y. Hilton, but that obviously hasn't happened yet. It's not going to be the Texans, right? I mean,
they're signing literally everybody, but I don't think you're just going to become a Texan. Baltimore, some people suggested the Ravens, which makes sense.
And they got interest this morning in Galladay, so
yeah.
I suppose that's fine. What about the Bengals? They got cap room and could use another receiver to go with Tyler Boyd, couldn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, Boyd plays in the slot so much, it just seems like a lot of overlap there.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean,
and then I guess the Steelers, maybe the Patriots got a lot of cap room as well too, man. But
I mean, they've signed three receivers already. It feels like.
Right.
Bourne.
Well, Belichick likes to throw a lot of that wide receiver mud up on the wall.
Yeah, he's doing it this offseason. You want to go into your offseason plan? You teased this on Twitter yesterday about what you would do and your plan to bring back JuJu while not eating up a ton of cap space.
Yeah, you've had time to think about it. You probably come up. You probably got something. I'm gonna get ambushed by here, aren't I?
Oh, there's no ambush. I promise you. I agree with the idea.
People sometimes wonder, man. You guys talk and speculate so much about what the Steelers will do, and yeah, you guys are right on a lot of this stuff, but a lot of times you don't talk about or criticize and say about maybe what you would do. And I kind of beat on this a little bit with you the other day, but I've given it even a little bit more thought now, especially consider what all has, or in really the case of JuJu, hasn't happened so far. And on the surface, it appears that they they might still want him. Or put it to you this way: you would think, if you believe the reports out there and all that JuJu has said and all that that the Steelers seem to maybe have been indicated, is the two sides would like to still have a relationship with each other moving forward, right?
With JuJu?
Right.
Yeah. They like JuJu. They would like to have him back. I think that much has been made clear.
And obviously, it's probably, the market value has a little bit to do with it, but, and you should never judge a player, once again, by cap space. But they are, there's only so many ways. We've talked about how they got $13 million more in cap costs coming and how low they are now. There's only so many things you can do and to afford a first-year cap hit on a fair market value long-term contract. Still tough to do. Here's what I would do. And apologies to anybody's toes that I step on, including players, if you're listening to this. I would cut. Here's what I would do. I would not right out cut Eric Ebron yet, but boy, these last couple days, he is due a $500,000 roster bonus on the 22nd, right? So if he's on your roster past that, you got to pay that, and that goes against your cap, right? So if you're going to do anything with Eric Ebron, regardless, it's got to be soon, you would think. All right? Whether it be cutting them or whatever. What I would do is I would shop Eric Ebron around the league right now, maybe a team like the 49ers, and I would say give us a 6th-round pick for Eric Ebron and that tight end that you drafted last year. What was his name? Charlie Warner, the kid out of Georgia there. Give us Charlie Warner, give us a 6th-round draft pick and take Eric Ebron and this contract off our hands. In doing so, you would free up $6 million in cap space, minus the displacement cost, which would essentially be Charlie Warner, right? Or whoever, and a very inexpensive contract there. And then that extra cap space that you get there should help you easily afford a first-year cap charge for JuJu Smith-Schuster in 2021. And then I go extreme dump couponing, signing 3 or 4 different low-level tight ends, Jesse James, 1 or 2 others that maybe could give you something in the passing game that have a little bit of a blocking ability. And then I would move forward from that. And then I would open myself up also to potentially drafting a tight end as well there. Make no mistake about it. What's going to happen is Eric Ebron going to get extended this offseason?
No.
You wouldn't think so, right?
Unless it's a voidable year thing or they're really desperate for cash.
Right.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's a possibility now. And once again, if you're going to do that with Eric Ebron, some sort of voidable year extension with him, you're going to do that before the 22nd, so right. You can wrap that $500,000 roster bonus into it. So I don't imagine it's totally out of a question that could happen. But you're essentially telling him that he's done after this year anyway, right?
Sure.
Do you even want Eric Ebron on your roster after this season?
Right. No, I think 2 years is good enough. Again, he's been an as-advertised player. You knew the good you were getting with him. You've gotten the good. You knew the bad you were getting with him. You've got the bad, so there's no surprise there, but it's not somebody I'm probably going to extend after the season.
All right. So anyway, long story short, and the message I was trying to convey to you and Matthew Marksey last night is that I would try in these next few days, and this is only if I was really serious about trying to get JuJu back. I would shop Eric Ebron around to any team and try to get a low-level draft pick plus a young tight end on a rookie contract with upside. Foster Monroe with the Raiders, right? It's a guy that we both agreed fit the Steelers, and kind of unfortunate that they weren't able to draft him at all. Charlie Warner. Go around the league. Some of these teams that might have drafted a tight end a year or two ago that maybe have a little bit of upside that maybe can block a little bit, and then go that way. That's what I would do. Because let's face it, Eric Ebron, can you replace those 50-something receptions? You could probably make put a dent in them. And you could probably put a little bit of dent in him if you had JuJu back. And he gives you absolutely nothing as a blocker. He has the drop problem. That's probably not going to go away as well, too. So that's just my cockamamie, idea. Now I welcome you to shoot as many holes in it as you can.
No, I agree with the idea, because basically what it comes down to is this. Who would you rather have, JuJu on a long-term deal or Eric Ebron for 2021? And I don't think anybody's picking Ebron in that scenario, unless you just hate JuJu for the TikTok and the off-the-field stuff. But JuJu's the younger player. He's the better player. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And I think the salary-wise, it would wash. The money you save with Ebron versus JuJu's cap hit probably cancel each other out for the season. So it's not going to impact your cap in a negative way either. So I'm with you on that. Now, let me just ask you this. Assuming you couldn't trade him, because I know when you start trading guys and it sounds like, okay, you're going to cut him, teams are just going to let you cut him in a lot of cases, unless it's a Rodney Hudson type situation. Would you just cut Ebron if you couldn't find a taker before the 22nd?
I would consider it, but half of my cockamamie plan is to get a tight end back in return.
I'm asking if you couldn't do it. I mean, mislaid plans.
I would seriously consider it, yeah. But
I think you would in that scenario. If it meant you got JuJu, then you would cut Ebron and go find a blocking tight end a different way.
And look, I don't have anything against the guy. I know it's going to come out like this, but look, I mean, I question right after. What are the things I question right after they signed him? His hands and his blocking ability. Now, did he provide the team a lot more receptions, and could they have used him better than they used him last year offensively in the passing game? I think so, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. I mean, he does have some value to him, but in this situation, especially too, when I mean, what's been the mantra we've heard all offseason? This team's got to run the football better, right? I mean, how are you going to justify putting him on the field for the amount of snaps to get the $6 million worth, and then also expect to be able to run the football better to his side?
Sure. You'll always have to deal with scheming around him and dealing with the negativity there, and there's only so much you can do to work around that. So I think that's a fair point.
So I would definitely consider it for sure,
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but I like the idea. It sounds good.
All right. That people want us to talk about things like that, and it's as hypothetical could be, but it'll end up on another blog soon. Probably that idea, because we already talked about Chase Winovich the other day, and that's already shown up on some hack already ran with that. But anyway.
All right, moving on. Quick note here. The Bengals are releasing Steelers killer quarterback Ryan Finley and Bobby Hart, which will make TJ Watt very sad because he loved going against Bobby Hart.
He sure did. Bobby Hart, extremely overrated, really. I don't know. I don't know what kind of market he's going to find out there, but it's probably not going to be very good. Look, Alejandro Villanueva's still unsigned right now, right? JuJu's getting all the news right now, but Alejandro Villanueva remains unsigned.
And I've heard nothing about his free agent market right now.
Right. What did you think about the Wormley deal? I mean, the decision to bring him back, and B, the deal.
Yeah, I think, ideally you want him to come in for dirt cheap, but, players know their worth on a 2-year deal. You're not going to sign that for the minimum both years, obviously. So I understand it coming in a little bit higher than what we would ideally want to see. And when you lose Tyson Alualu, you don't want to lose Wormley as well. I know some people have asked, is Wormley going to kick inside? Who's your nose tackle? I don't think it'll be Wormley. I know that it worked with Alualu last year, but the big difference between Alualu and Wormley is height and leverage. Alualu's 6'2.5", Wormley's over 6'5", so trying to move that guy to nose tackle against every guard and center who's going to be shorter than Wormley and win the leverage battle, not great for Chris Wormley. So I think it's going to be a rotational end, and as you had in your terrible take yesterday, I think you'll see Isaiah Buggs and also Carlos Davis battle it out for that nose tackle spot, in addition to maybe a draft pick, or I think more likely some sort of low-level veteran interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, and I would agree, and that was my terrible take on Thursday. Just look, I'm not going to put Carlos Davis in the Pro Bowl, but off of 59, 60 snaps. But you would agree there was a little something there in that Dallas game, right? Overall, top
snap.
to bottom. I mean, his tape on those 60 snaps was, I don't like to use the word not awful, but it wasn't, it was not awful.
Yeah, his first snap was a tackle on Zeke. I mean, it's a good way to start your career. Now, I need to go through all of his snaps. It shouldn't take me much time at all, and kind of really get a good feel for what his rookie season was like. Yeah, there was some flashes there, and he got ahead, and he was playing a little bit, and that's all positive. But, I think obviously you're not going to hand either of these guys a job. So I think a good competitive battle between two young guys in Davis and Buggs, and again, maybe that veteran you add as well, Christian Covington, bring back Steve McClendon, someone like that, makes a lot of sense for addressing the position. But you got to get it right because, again, this AFC North, they run the heck out of the football, facing Baltimore, facing the Browns. Those teams run the ball as well as any team in the NFL, and so you better stop the run if you want to win the North.
Would you bet your house right now that Isaiah Buggs will be on the 53-man roster?
No, and I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's flashed it, but he's had weight issues. He's had mental, assignment issues and things like that. And I think there's been a source of frustration there from the coaching staff. So I think just given that, you couldn't ever guarantee a player to be on the roster in that sense. I
mean, we saw at the end of last year who was getting the helmet over who, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carlos Davis getting the helmet.
And then we saw, that riff that you reposted on the Twitter machine yesterday between that Chris Wormley had to break up. Maybe that's why Chris Wormley got a little bit extra money, right? Peacemaker,
workers' comp. Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you had to guess, who do you think instigated that?
I have no idea.
I know it's loose. Bizarre. I'm setting you up here, but.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, and I get it. It's football. Guys get into it. It's not a big deal, but it's just kind of funny that those guys will be, again, fighting, taking battle, trying to eke out a starting spot, I think, in training camp.
So basically, long story short, my message yesterday, and I invite people to go listen to that terrible take, and today is Alex Kozora's turn to do his terrible take. But was that, just don't sleep. People seem to be just bypassing Carlos Davis here and forgetting that he was drafted last year and that he played over Isaiah Buggs. We'll get a better sense of this thing pre-draft and then obviously draft. If hopefully they don't have to spend a draft pick on a defensive tackle, but maybe they will, maybe they won't, and then maybe they will. Or I know it's kind of that's brilliant analysis there, because it really could go either way here in free agency before the draft, right? As far as maybe adding a veteran nose defensive tackle type on the cheap. It's not going to be anybody that's going to break the bank, but if you could get somebody for around $1 million something cap charge with some experience and especially decent against the run, it would make some sense.
It would be my preference to do the free agent route as opposed to a draft pick. We'll see what happens. If I had to guess, though, based on who's on the roster currently, I think Carlos Davis has a better shot being your starting nose tackle than Isaiah Buggs does. Right now.
I do, too, and I think that's the point I was trying to make, and kind of wrapping this all the way back to Wormley. It's just not the ideal fit for him. Over the you probably want him being your more of your backup to Stephon Tuitt and Cameron Hayward more than anything else.
Right, he's more of a rotational end, and I know you can't make these decisions based off of the sunk cost policy. That's dangerous, but I am glad they signed Wormley in the sense of if you lost him, he signed somewhere else, back-to-back years, fifth-round picks you threw at a guy, Nick Vannett 2 years ago, Wormley this year, where you would have lost him, and that would have been kind of a difficult pill to swallow. So you can't base your decision that we have to re-sign this guy because we just traded for him. But it is kind of nice that that trade you feel a little bit better about the trade right now than you would have had he gone somewhere else.
Yeah, like I said, he owed us he owed the Steelers some snaps.
I didn't agree with the framing, but I understand the point there. So. Right. So you have, Wormley is your rotational end behind Hayward and Tuitt. They'll let Davis and Buggs battle out for nose tackle. They got still Henry Mondeau sitting there who can kind of play up and down the line, and maybe they add some low-level free agent.
Right.
All right, Dave, where to now? We covered Sutton. We covered Wormley. Anything else on JuJu you want to wrap up? I hope we hear I just want to know an answer. Sooner or later, I want to know an answer.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing now. We've speculated enough on him. It's just where is he going to end up now is the main thing. Where is he going to end up? And you would think that we would find out. I would think that we'd find out by the time the weekend's over with or by Monday. I mean, if we're sitting here on Monday still speculating, that's obviously not going to be good news as far. You wouldn't
Right.
think it'd be great news unless Juju's just been told, hold on, we got to rearrange some stuff here. So, I mean, you would think Galladay and Juju, both those dominoes are going to fall here pretty soon.
Yeah, is it a question of, is JuJu just waiting for the Galladay shoe to drop so he kind of has the whole lane to himself, or vice versa, or who knows? I mean, Galladay's situation just seems so weird right now with the physicals and the questions, and is he going to take a 1-year deal? And would JuJu want to take a 1-year deal? If his market is just truly that light and it's 12 or 13 million, he says, well, I thought I was going to get 15, 16. I want to take a 1-year contract. That's going to obviously present some challenges we just outlined for the Steelers, cap-wise. So who knows? We'll keep you posted.
I know it might sound foolish. Of course, a lot of things probably come out of my mouth might sound foolish, but I still think his value's at least up there, 15.5, right around in there. Look,
is the market reflecting that? Because so far it hasn't.
I mean, who's out there that actually has been competing with him on the market overall? And who out there? I mean, not everybody's going to rush out and go get the highest value receiver on the market either, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
is it alarming that he's not signed yet?
Not necessarily. To me, what's more alarming is just maybe we haven't seen some of these bigger numbers for these receivers. He's been comparable to a Will Fuller or a Curtis Samuel or a Corey Davis, and those guys, got paid decent, but they're not coming in. If those guys were coming in at 14 million, then you say, yeah, JuJu probably jumps them by a little bit, but those guys are coming in between like 11 and 13, which is not great news for JuJu's market.
Let me ask you this though, but we have seen, and it's got to count. I mean, the franchise tags on both Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin have to count for something, right?
Have they impacted the free agent market at all, though? It doesn't seem like they have impacted it.
Well, they have to account for market value, period, because they were set to be free agents, and now they're not free agents.
Yeah, but it's not going to matter to some team trying to sign them. Who cares what some team did franchise tagging somebody? That's not the current free agent.
Okay, but their own teams are saying though that they're worth this amount of money.
Right, but what Chicago says, Allen Robinson's value is, has nothing to do with what the Jets value JuJu as.
Okay,
and in that sense, at least, I don't think. If you've seen these guys come in at 14 million plus, maybe you say there's an impact there. But I think you're seeing a guy like Allen Robinson quickly sign the franchise tag because he knows, okay, the market's kind of been light, and I want to make sure I get myself on this tag because that's really good money compared to what these receivers are getting.
Well, he's on back-to-back tags on top of it. So there's there's that, what was it? What is it? 20% increase over the previous year on back-to-back tags there. Chris Godwin though, $15.983 million. I mean, where would you put JuJu in relation to Chris Godwin?
I mean, he's below Godwin. You
would put him below Godwin? How far below?
I mean, I don't have a percentage or something like that, but I think most people, and myself included, I mean, I love JuJu, but I think Godwin's a better player than JuJu, especially just based off of what they've done for you lately.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't think JuJu's less than, I don't know. I still think he's got a 15. When you got Cooper Kupp out there, 15.75. When you have Robert Woods out there at 16.25, and Brandon Cooks at 16.2, and
yeah, but all that stuff was happening before this cap crunch too, which is just the other factor you got to throw into it.
I mean, you got. I still think his value is greater than Corey Davis at 12.5, and maybe not as high as Allen Robinson's new tag number of 17.9. So I mean that's quite a span of $5 million in there. So
yeah, I think JuJu still comes in above Corey Davis, but could it be 13.5, 14.5? I mean, that's kind of where I'm at more than where I was at the start of free agency, where I thought he was going to be, 16, 17 million per year.
I guess what I'm getting at is I still see it somewhat. If you're JuJu, I don't know. We're spending too much time on this. But I still think his market value is 15 to 17 million. I still honestly believe that, even in what we've seen so far. We'll see if he comes in lower than that. But just kind of looking at the numbers and thinking how thinking about his negotiation and all like that. And make no mistake about it, if he signs with the Steelers, though, I suppose you could do it. Once again, you're not going to do it just 1 year with 4 years voidable. What would be the lowest if he did re-sign with the Steelers? What would be the lowest length, even though you could probably add some voidable years on there? 3 plus 2?
You're asking what the lowest length is in total, including voidable years, or not?
Well, non and with voidable years. In other words, is it fathomable that they try to sign him to what would essentially be a 3-year deal, but 5 in total that includes 2 voidable years, so that he can have another chance at that apple?
Yeah, I think the longer the better, with probably voidable years, just to spread out the cap hit as much as possible, is going to be the play for Steelers, no matter what the language of the deal is.
I would think that if they're going to do, and this is a big if here, if they do try to re-sign him at this point now, you'd have to think they insist on a 5-year deal,
Yeah. Now, with voidable years or without, or...
I would do it just for flat 5.
Flat 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then you'd have to give him good money then. You couldn't come in low. I mean, you probably give him the 15, 16 plus, because he's not going to lock himself in on, $13 million per year.
Okay.
Or what? Unless you gave him a good bonus. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's probably the good way to frame it. Dave, I wanted to ask you about, I want you to be our NFLPA page here and give us a cap update, since the official page is lagging a little bit.
Oh, wow. I will tell you this. What was the difference saved? Let's see here. Let me pull up my numbers here. I had them at 2.632 prior to learning about the new information on the Sutton deal. And what did I say? The Sutton deal ended up clearing for them. Ended up, hold on a minute, the redo on the Sutton deal, if it is as it is laid out there, would have been
1.05.
1.05. So let me add on 1.05 onto this number.
Should put them 3 something?
3.6 something, yeah.
All right, so 3.6 in space right now is where you have them at. And that is factoring in everything we know so far. Finney, the rough approximation on Finney, Vince Williams, and you have your workout placeholder in there too, correct?
Right, exactly. So, and once again, you would think 3 point, let me give you an exact number here just to be, because I hate dealing with approximates here. It's just not how I'm wired. Let's see. It would be 3.682586. So how exact is that for you there? Now that's assuming that nothing else happens with the length of these other contracts here, right? Because a lot of, like I said, we're going off of what's out there and what's being reported. Now the Finney, that can only be 1 year, because that's a qualifying contract. So it's not like there's going to be extra years added onto that. The only one I think potentially that it could potentially be would maybe be Wormley, right? He's the only one out there that's outlying, right?
Right. Yeah, that would be. They already announced Finney as a 1-year deal, so we know it's just 1 year.
Well, have they announced Sutton yet or no?
No, the team has not officially announced Sutton yet. They officially announced Finney, though it just hasn't hit the NFLPA page yet. With Wormley, again, if you're going to do the voidable years with Sutton, why wouldn't you do it with Wormley? I mean, I guess it would be just the way you plan this thing up. But if you did it with one on a 2-year deal, why wouldn't you do it with the other?
I would venture to say just because you don't save that much money, but that doesn't seem to be the issue. Let's look at see what Wormley's would be. Let's see, he got a $1.2 million signing bonus, right? So what would that be divided by 5? Let's see, equals
$240,000
divided by 5. 240 versus 600. What's the difference between 600,000 and 240,000? That's
360.
You would save 360 K in cap space by doing him 4 voidable. I mean, doing the 3 extra voidable years than what's going on now.
Yeah.
I mean, do you really need the $360,000 in salary cap space? We'll find out.
That's true. That gets really, really small at that point. What is Sutton's dead money, by the way, whenever that contract voids? Do we know the number on that?
It would be what? Hold on a minute here. You're asking me. I got too many pages pulled up.
I'm peppering here with questions. I mean, obviously, it's a couple of years from now. It's going to be a small number. Cap's going to go up. All the caveats, but just to get the number.
Well, now if you're going past 2022, you're left with 2.1 million in potential dead money now because of this.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll see. But obviously, Pittsburgh trying to explore every single avenue this offseason of clearing cap space, whether that's Ben's crazy structure, the Sutton voidable year, cutting Vince, the contract termination. I mean, that's just the reality of this offseason. That's why this team is rightfully framed it as one of the most difficult off seasons they've ever had to endure.
All right. I mean, who else they going to? I mean, the remaining unrestricted free agents of theirs out there, they're probably going to re-sign a couple of those guys, but those will be just minimum deals, right? We already talked about that. The Jordan Dangerfields, the Sean Davises. Doesn't seem people don't seem to be after Avery Williamson right now. But I would expect a few more guys of their own to be re-signed soon.
Sure, Jordan Berry as well. All the names we've discussed, low level. Ola, does he circle back? Guys like that. So we'll keep you posted. But I think that's going to come later on after you get past the JuJu and some of the potential mid-level guys, and you can really assess your cap space after you kind of get past this, let's call it second and third wave of free agency.
Okay, Eagle Eye. What's up with the pro days?
Busy day yesterday for the Steelers, probably their busiest day so far. We'll start with the headliner of Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, and wide receivers coach Ike Hilliard being at Auburn's pro day yesterday, which wasn't necessarily the marquee place to go, where they had a couple of receivers to check out, Seth Williams and Anthony Schwartz. And we know this team has already had an interview, Zoom meeting with wide receiver Anthony Schwartz, who clocked in at a 4.26 40. Nicknamed the Flash, one of the fastest guys in college football. It's actually kind of disappointing he came in at 4.26. Some people thought he would come in, below or better than that. But clearly looking at the speed of Schwartz at Auburn yesterday.
We've had a lot of conversation about him already in a short period amount of time. And he did say that he did confirm again that he had already talked to the Steelers previously and talked to, about fit and all like that. Look, I mean, tape aside, which I haven't really gone back and looked yet at a lot of his 2018 tape, which you seem to think that's where a lot of his upsides is in his 2018 tape. I mean, his 2020 tape's not all that impressive, and I don't know. I think you agree on that aspect of it, but this is a sparky guy, as we like to say, and they had Ike Hilliard there, right, at the pro day as well, too. I mean, they've got fingerprints all over this thing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it speaks to a level of interest in Schwartz, obviously, but also speaks just to a desire to get some extra speed in this offense. I mean, obviously, Chase Claypool's a freaky dude, but they don't really have that Mike Wallace, Nate Washington type of guy that's just a flat-out burner. And maybe that's the way you improve the vertical attack right now, is just by adding the fastest dudes possible. So Schwartz, I don't love him as a prospect, but he's undeniably fast, and you see that translate onto the football field. So that is certainly a name to watch, when you sit there in the, let's call, third, fourth round potentially for him.
That was my next thing after knowing all that on him now. Who was it? PFF had him as maybe a first rounder, and I see other people have him as a second rounder. I'm just not seeing it. Are you? Oh no, the Purdue kid was the one that they had as the first rounder, right?
Oh yeah, Rondell Moore.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I was going to say, who has Anthony Schwartz as a first rounder?
I got the two confused there for a moment there, what PFF wrote up on him. But, I mean, we agree that Schwartz is, third might be pushing it. He really feels like a fourth-round guy to me.
Yeah, but I mean, speed kills. You will go out there and get your guy. You get your guy. Seth Williams is a different type of dude. He's kind of bigger, longer kind of guy. I don't know as much about him as I do Schwartz, but I do feel like their focus has been on Schwartz and adding that speed element to this offense.
What have you watched any of the other kid? I haven't.
No, I really haven't seen much on Williams.
We got a profile on him, but other than that.
I think. Yeah, I should probably check that one out. We've had so many profiles. I'm losing track at this point. The team's doing a great job. But Schwartz, I think, is the guy to really. And then also, it's worth mentioning, and I had this funny enough in my mock off season. You wrote about it yesterday. KJ Britt, the linebacker out of Auburn. Very, very Vince Williams mold type of guy.
Absolutely. And you go back to the Alex Kozora, what the Steelers look for, numbers and all. And he's a guy, remember, I commented, I think, back at the Senior Bowl. I think I got a tweet or two up about him. Digging a little bit deeper into his tape, he fits. He passes. Have you seen his short shuttle and 3-cone yet, or any of that? I haven't seen those numbers yet. But
yeah, I have not. No.
The every other measurable fits. And I think he even said during his Zoom session that teams are looking at him as a middle linebacker, obviously, not an outside linebacker. That would make some sense there. You look at the tape and you look at the measurables and all like that, and you look at the way he plays against the run, very, very Vince Williams-like. In fact, a little bit more athletic version. I think a little bit more athletic version of Vince Williams, especially when it comes to his change of direction skills. So, where does he rank in the rankings there? I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, I would think he's around kind of a 4th-round prospect as well.
Yeah, I think he's a day 3 guy. 4th round sounds about right. He's a team captain, a leader, downhill type of guy. Was voted best linebacker of his team at the Senior Bowl. And so I don't think the upside is terribly high with him. But if you want kind of that Vince Williams type of clone, I think KJ Britt's as good a bet as any.
Yeah, and I put out there, look, the shiny object was obviously Schwartz yesterday, right? But don't sleep on Britt. I mean, it'd been nice if we would have known whether or not, Jerry O would have been there, but I think they can only take 3 guys there, right?
Yeah, so those were the 3, Tomlin, Colbert, and Ike Hilliard.
Right. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying Kenny Britt should be on people's or KJ Britt.
KJ Britt.
Yeah, Kenny Britt.
Titans receiver from 2008.
Right. KJ Britt should be on people's watch list, or especially when it comes to mock drafts.
One guy on my watch list, that so much so that I wrote an article about it this morning, was Robert Rochelle from Central Arkansas. Not too often Steelers are sending scouts to Central Arkansas, but they sent one yesterday. Not just an area scout either. It was college scouting coordinator Phil Kreidler, which is one of the higher ranking guys in the front office. And Rochelle put on a heck of a show. He weighed in right just under 6 foot, 190 something pounds, ran in the 4.4s, jumped I think 43 inches in the vert, 11 plus in the broad, had a really strong workout overall. And so the fact that they sent Phil Kreidler, who was in Pittsburgh the day before, so he made a very quick trip out to Arkansas yesterday. That's the guy I think to watch there in the 3rd round if they do go defense at pick number 88.
Tell me about him.
I need to learn more about him myself. He played outside corner. He's been a ball hawk in 2018 and 2019 combined. He had 9 interceptions, 10 career picks. And the good thing for him is that Central Arkansas played a lot of football last year. They played 9 games, so he wasn't in the North Dakota State situation or a guy that didn't get to play at all, like a Quinn Miners, for example. And that's pretty important for Pittsburgh because they want to get tape on these guys. And the guys that couldn't play or opted out last year are probably going to be hurt by the Steelers in this process. So that seems to be one of your sleepers, and there was a lot of interest there. I think 22 or 27 teams showed up at Central Arkansas's pro day yesterday. So a lot of focus on Rochelle. But when the Steelers, send Kreidler, when they scout some of these small school guys, I think it's more notable than usual.
Was he wasn't Senior Bowl, was he?
That's a good question. I can check. I'm not 100% sure on.
I don't remember the name.
No, it looks like he was at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, he was.
I'm just pulling up quick articles here.
Oh, yeah, he was. Yes. Yeah. Huh. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. For sure.
Yeah, so that's a guy to watch because again, and then we get so focused on they're going to draft offense and I think it's going to happen early, but they're not going to draft all offense here. There's still defensive needs that have to be filled, and so if they go offense 1st and 2nd round, odds tell you it's a decent chance they address defense in the third round. So that could be in a variety of different ways: edge, off-ball linebacker, defensive line now potentially, but also cornerback. And Rochelle's been more of an outside guy than a slot guy, but Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, last year of their contracts. Justin Lane is not panned out. They do seem to like James Pierre, but still get a really athletic playmaking corner. Don't pass on those guys too often.
And we know they like those Senior Bowl, those All-Star kids too, right?
Yeah.
And then the fact that you just said that, how significant is it with Phil showing up there?
I mean, I want to be careful not to overstate things because, again, I wrote in the article on Rochelle this morning is that scouting is casting a wide net, knowing you're not going to draft the vast majority of those players. But it's not like it's just an area scout showing up. This is your college scouting coordinator, one of your higher-ranking guys in the front office, been with the team since 1991. Dude's been around forever. So anytime you get that guy at your pro day, I think it's a little bit more notable than just sending, say, the Southern area scout to his workout.
We seem to Zach Banner's tweeting something about JuJu and a picture and with folded hands.
Well, that's like the praying hand sign. So is he just praying for JuJu to come back, or does he know something about JuJu coming back?
Yeah. Ooh. It's dangerous to speculate, ain't it? So on some of this stuff. Real quick here. We seem to have this talk every year. Still how many play? Kevin Colbert, when he speaks at the combine, he says, "Well, we have 150 to I forget how many times he said over the years how many players they have on draft boards and all like that." But in reality, how many players do you really think that they have circled and that they really would like to draft? You know what I'm saying?
I think Colbert's been asked that before. I want to say it was like 90 or something. I'd have to go back and find an old quote on that. But yeah, I mean, the board isn't huge, but I think 90 to 100 players.
I don't think it's as big as what maybe people, just based on us tracking it all these years, it seems like it's very easy, more so after the fact, obviously, but after each draft, it's very easy to draw lines back in the process, right? Senior Bowl, production, because didn't this kid from Central Arkansas have a lot of production?
Yeah, 10 career interceptions, and he didn't have one last year because I think they just kind of stopped throwing to him because he had 9 across 2018 and 2019. So again, athletic, decent size. He's got good length, 32.5-inch arms. I mean, he profiles well.
Sparky. I mean, all the little things that we Blues Clues about, I guess what I'm getting at is I think that kid needs to be on, let's say if we were to put a list of 50 names out there, and I guess that's what I'm getting at is I bet that list is only about 50 players long or something like that. But he's got to be on your list now. That's a good eagle eye by you. That's why you're the best at doing that.
That one was hard to find. Cardler was tucked away in the corner of one of the shots that the Twitter account posted. And so if you didn't know, you wouldn't know, but we found them. And so in addition to Central Arkansas and Auburn, also defensive line coach Carl Dunbar was at Louisiana Tech yesterday, along with area scout Mark Gorsick, famous for running the 40s at the Combine. And that was to see Milton Williams, who had a really impressive workout, kind of a tweener in the Steelers system, but 284 pounds and jumped 38.5 inches in the vertical. So that's a guy that probably won't become a Steeler, but likely a solid day 3 pick at this point. But notable anytime a position coach goes to one of these pro days. Yeah,
give me the measurables on him again.
I think he came in 6'3", 284, and again, pro day times can be a little wonky, but 38.5-inch vertical is cornerback, wide receiver type stuff.
And we talked about. I remember several weeks ago talking about. The aspect with there's just not that many kind of 4-5 techs that fit what the Steelers like to do,
Yeah, and he really wouldn't probably fit as that 4-eye either. He's kind of more of a 3-tech, one gap type of player. But in the Steelers system, you can still maybe get some use out of that in sub package. But probably not an ideal fit for Pittsburgh, but a really impressive workout. And again, just you see Dunbar there. Actually, I didn't see Dunbar. That was from Tony Pauline's report, but that is always worth noting.
Right.
Also, the Steelers were at Buffalo. That was area scout Dave Pettit. And they were at West Virginia with Blaine Stewart. And I believe Tosin Kazim, I'm not 100% sure on that, but Buffalo, West Virginia, WVU has a couple of good prospects. Tony Fields, who I thought had a good week at the Senior Bowl, and Darius Stills, who's also an undersized defensive lineman.
And we'll start getting draft profiles up on several of these guys, right? Moving them to the front of the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So they were at 5 different places yesterday, and I'm not sure what today's pro day schedule is. Who's pro days today?
It's Friday. Probably not many of them, right? Would it be on Friday, right?
That's true. And I still need to check on places like Cal and Stanford. So this is not a complete list necessarily of places they were at. I just haven't been able to find anything on those schools yet.
Who all was yesterday? What schools was yesterday?
Well, in the 5 that they were at, there was also Stanford. There was Cal.
I taped the Stanford one. I haven't gotten back to watching it yet, though.
Okay, yeah, let me know on that. I mean, that could be Mark Bruner territory. I feel like Cheedy might be another West area scout right now. I'm not 100% sure on that. Also, I want to check, and I couldn't find it. There's one clip of San Jose State, and I think there's a Steeler guy there, but I couldn't tell for sure. And that would be interesting, I think, primarily not because San Jose State has a great prospect, but KJ Costello, the Mississippi State quarterback, was throwing at that pro day. And so could they be there to watch KJ Costello? I've not been able to confirm that, but I'm going to keep efforting these next couple of days.
Let's see. Yesterday was Auburn, Buffalo, Cal, Louisiana Monroe, Memphis, Stanford, and West Virginia.
Okay. Does anyone Memphis? I guess with feet are not there anymore. But I'll have to check Memphis. I have not checked Memphis actually yet.
We do know that Kenneth Gainwell did say that.
Right.
That he had had something scheduled with the Steelers or talked to him already or something like that, right?
Is it Memphis today?
Wait a minute. It says Thursday on the NFL on the NFL media release.
Let me check here. But that is a good call on Gainwell because that's the guy I like quite a bit and I think would fit really well in Matt Canada's offense.
Let's see if we can find out when that. It says March 19th on. Let's see.
Not today. It's looking Memphis football's account showing today.
You know what? That's when the yesterday was the media availability.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yeah, today's the actual pro day workout, so we'll see. I'm guessing, Eddie Faulkner might be there. Someone is probably going to represent from Pittsburgh, but we'll find out.
Okay, my apologies. This is the players that for the media were available yesterday, so the actual pro day is today.
Gotcha.
Right?
All right, so yeah, pro day's today, correct. So we'll. I'm betting someone from Pittsburgh will be there, but we'll have to check that out later in the day.
All right, and I would assume Louisiana Monroe. I can't remember if their actual pro day is today or I know their media day was yesterday.
Okay, so I'll circle back to some of that stuff, and we'll get the pro day tracker updated. But yeah, check out the pro day tracker on Steelers Depot. I try to update that usually every night when I kind of go through things and see who all was there throughout the day.
I'm showing on their media release for Friday the 19th, Florida State, Syracuse, TCU.
For media.
For players available. Now I don't know if that's the you would think with it Friday they're not going to hold the actual pro day events on Saturday, you wouldn't think, right? So right. I would think that today would actually be both the media and the on the field stuff for Florida State, Syracuse, and TCU.
Yeah, according to the schedule that you had posted a couple weeks ago, today was listed for Memphis, Ohio, TCU. I don't see Florida State on there, but maybe that's on there as well. Send that link over to me because maybe that's an updated list that I don't have in my possession right now. All right, cool. All right, Dave. Anything else you want to cover in today's show? I think we kind of hit on everything pretty strong here. If we've covered everything, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, I suppose we should start wrapping a bow around this thing here already. Let me see if I find the email machine here. From Sim Football Critic. Good day. Thanks for the outstanding coverage. Like always, am I wrong to not want the Steelers to draft a Travis Etienne or Kenneth Gainwell style of back? Don't get me wrong. I think Etienne is clearly in the top 3 of backs coming out, and I'll welcome him if he's the guy. But I think we can get that style of play out of Anthony McFarland. If the Steelers go with a running back at 24, I would prefer Williams, then Harris. Or if they still wait until later in the draft, have my eyes on Trey Sermon. Am I off with the McFarland assessment? Not comparing apples to apples, just comparing the play style of those guys. Thanks a lot. Look, I mean, the unfortunate thing about with McFarland is we just don't, outside of his college tape still, we don't know a lot about him. And yeah, I mean, he is that kind of more shiftier change of pace back, if you will, but they did get him kind of on the cheap, on the round that he got. But you wouldn't think that, boy, you talk about being aggravated if they burn that guy, throw him out with the bathwater real quick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get the argument there, but it's like saying, well, you can't draft a big back like Trey Sermon because you have Benny Snell. I mean, you have a bigger back on your roster, you have a speed back on your roster. Let's just get talent on the roster. I wouldn't get so hyper focused on, well, worried about the same style of back, so we can't take this guy. I think you overthink those kind of things. You want to get talent guys that fit your system, and Gainwell, for example, does things, and ETN also, are much better receiving backs than Anthony McFarland is. So, I mean, there's different skill sets there beyond just they're a little smaller, speed shifty type of guys.
I mean, I understand where he's coming from here, but Kevin Colbert would tell you you don't bypass any good player. Now, whether or not you want to believe that, I think ETN is a more complete back than McFarland is.
Yeah, I think Gainwell is as well. Now, I think McFarland can catch. I think he just wasn't thrown to a lot. But, I mean, ETN and Gainwell have proven themselves to be much better receivers.
Right. Look, I still think it's going to be one of those three at the top. And I think Gainwell might be one of those fallback, guys. But from where I sit now, not that I agree with the decision, me and first-round running backs, but a lot of signs sure do point to it being one of those three guys. And as far as McFarland goes, he could still be kind of your change of pace guy.
Right. There's nothing wrong with having a good backup, and because if you build your offense, not that you build your offense, but if your offense is kind of built to an extent around a Gainwell or ETN, and that guy gets hurt, then McFarland steps in. You don't have to really change your scheme too much either. So that's always a helpful thing. So again, I wouldn't get too focused on the style of back because they have both styles of back on the roster right now, and Snell and Samuels, or not Samuels, Snell's and McFarland, but just get good talent, and that's the focus of the draft.
All right, Brian writes in, David Alex, big fan of the pod. Look forward to it every day. Look forward to it every day. It releases. Appreciate everything you do. 2 questions. With JuJu most likely not coming back, I'm just curious as to how similar to Corey Davis, 3 years, $37 million contract would look as a first-year cap hit compared to the post you made a while back, where the cap hit would be over $6 million at 16 to set. Let's see, second pro day. Okay, to answer the first question, hopefully we already answered a lot of that when it comes to what a contract might look like, right? For JuJu and a first-year cap hit, if you're looking at somewhere around, I don't know, $15 million per year, you could get that cap hit of his, and do a contract the way the Steelers like to do them. You could get that done with the cap charge under $5 million. So I think that's very doable, especially if you're talking about having a contract at valued at under $15 million or right around $15 million.
Right. Corey Davis's contract was structured differently. He was given hardly any of a signing bonus and a heavy base salary in 2021. But hypothetically, let's say JuJu came in at around $13.5 million. What do you think a contract would look like in terms of first year cap charge for that? I guess it would be obviously even less than what you laid out for the $15 million hypothetical.
Phrase that again.
If JuJu got Corey Davis type money, what would be the first year cap charge roughly for a Steelers structured contract? Where you would still probably be around $4 million or so, I would think. The way the Steelers normally. Right. Oh, you mean on a 3-year deal? Yeah, or let's assume he gets the same contract as Corey Davis. What would be JuJu's cap hit the way the Steelers structure these things, or just that JuJu's getting $13.5 million per year on any sort of longer term deal?
Well, look, if his average yearly value is $13.5 million, you're going to have to put at least $15 million in his pocket, right? Okay, for 2021. What's the way that you do that? Most of that's going to be inside. We already talked about $990,000 as a minimum salary they could go. So $990,000. Let's go ahead and call it $1 million there, and the other 14. Would be in a signing bonus. Now, if you're just going to do it straight 3 years, I mean, what's 14 divided by 3?
4.66.
So then you're around 5.66 cap number on that. Now, obviously, you could go add 2 voidable years on that, and then you're looking at $14 million divided by 5 would be what?
2.8.
2.8. So then you're looking at 3.88.
And then post displacement, you're around
3.2 or so, or something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's doable. But if you
it's been doable the whole time. It's just, do you want to do it? I mean, we all know, everybody should know now with these voidable years and with restructures and all, there's not a lot that's not doable, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this:
it's just how bad do you want to do it? Do you value the player? Do you value the market price? That's how you determine if you want to do it.
Right. Let's just assume they do that deal with JuJu, and he comes in with a cap charge of, let's just call it $4 million. Where do you go from there to create more cap space? Because you just talked about how you need $13 million for accounting purposes, et cetera. I mean, now you've used up basically all your available cap space. So where do you go from there? Because you're almost out of money.
Right. Once again, and you would think that $5 million of it's going to come from restructures on Tuitt and Boswell, right?
All right. So you got $8 more million. You gotta get to.
Right. Maybe a restructure on or an extension on Steven Nelson to save you, I don't know, 3-4 maybe million. Are you going to can you get creative on TJ Watt's deal come time and lower that $10 million number down?
Right. But that also hasn't been factored in re-signing anybody else, whether that's your own or low-level free agents at positions you need. I mean, not that those are going to move the needle too much, but they're going to add up, to an extra $2 to $3 million off of that.
Look, if you get JuJu, if you re-sign JuJu, you're pretty much saying that's it. We can only do low level guys. However, but once again, restructures and extensions can you go to Joe Hayden? Would Joe Hayden take an extension all voidable years?
I think you really have to lean on Hayden to do that at this point because, I'm not saying I wouldn't bring JuJu back just because he eats up your cap space, but you want to be able to still have some flexibility and re-sign, or sign somebody else to kind of fill out your roster. So, yeah, I think you really have to get aggressive about opening up cap space if you do this deal with JuJu. You have to.
Right, and looking at the Corey Davis deal, I think that just goes to show that all deals aren't created equal. It's all how you want to structure it. The cash flow is going to be, the same generally, right? But the fact of the matter is how you structure and how you give the player that cash flow can obviously change. You can give the guy a huge first salary and a lower signing bonus, and then obviously that would create a little a higher cap charge in his first year. Or you can give a low base salary and a high higher signing bonus and keep the first year cap hit lower that way there. But if you look at these contracts across the board universally, the cash flow is usually the same, right?
Yeah, just the way they're structured can be different.
Right. So, when you're looking at it that way, but Brian, short answer is, I mean, you can structure this thing a lot of different ways here, but I would think that if they get JuJu done, that it's going to come in with his 2021 cap number between $4 and $5 million. That would make the most sense to do when the dust settles here.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. Yep.
All right. Second pro days, North Dakota State and Trey Lance. No major scout, Tomlin or Colbert, just the assistant offensive line coach. Is that something to look into as pro days go on and their interest in drafting one of these quarterbacks? With limited people being able to attend, I would assume you would see Canada, Colbert, or Tomlin attending some of these guys.
Yeah, I think that really takes him out of Trey Lance. I mean, for a guy that doesn't have a lot of tape, if you were going to seriously consider trading up for him, which is probably what it's going to require, you were going to send Tomlin or Colbert there to see Trey Lance in person. And just as a point of clarification, they sent Adrian Clem, the head offensive line coach, to see Dylan Raduns, not Chris Morgan, the assistant O-line coach.
All right. Let's move on here with David writes in. Peep the email address. It's Ken Bell 90. He says, yes, a nod to Kendrell. He says, was a favorite of mine growing up. Boy, what could have Kendrell Bell had been had he not suffered that ankle injury? You know?
Right. It was Rookie of the Year, and then the injury happened, and it all kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I never kind of really seemingly recovered from. Yeah, I wonder if I had to go back and read some stuff, see if it was more than just the knee, the ankle, because man, that sure did set him back there. Anyway, David writes in, just started listening to the pod this offseason. Love the info you bring. Just had one simple question. What makes you believe this year is Ben's last year? Something specific in the contract? If he comes out and has a solid year and wants to keep playing, is there reason to believe that couldn't happen? I'm not convinced this is it, and I'm in no hurry to start looking for another quarterback. I'll take Ben as long as he wants to sling it for us. Look, David, the only real thing right now is just looking at the contract and it voiding 5 days after the Super Bowl. Now, could that come to pass and they work something out and bring Ben back? Absolutely, but right now you're not, based on the base salaries that he has in avoidable years, something would have to be done contractually signed that would allow for all this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it would also take Ben probably playing out of his mind or damn near close to it in 2021 for that to happen. I don't think you could slam dunk absolutely guarantee that this is Ben's last season, but when you consider all the factors in it with his age and play and all like that, there's a high probability that it is.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I forget exactly what Ben had said, and I don't think it was a conclusion necessarily, but he had apparently texted Bouchette, and Bouchette had tweeted out that, Ben saying, I think I can do one more year, and just the way that got phrased and framed kind of made it sound like his last year. So again, not going to guarantee anything. I don't think Ben has made up his mind right now either in terms of his future. He's as competitive as guy as anyone in that locker room, but pretty confident this will be Ben's last year.
Right. Let's see. Michael Cantwell, I'm starting to believe the Steelers are going to draft a defensive player in the first round and take an offensive tackle and running back later in a draft. What are our biggest draft needs after our signing so far? Keep up the great work. And he loves the ad free. Michael's a ad free subscriber. Thank you for that, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. The signings have not been many. It is fixing the run game. It's still center. It's running back. It's edge. Potential a slot guy, a dime backer type of guy. The needs really have not changed because we knew they were going to lose Dupree and Hilton and Villanueva likely to walk here as well. We'll see what happens on JuJu. But, things really haven't changed too much in terms of what the Steelers need draft-wise.
Right. How surprised would you be if they went defense first round? It's possible. It's plausible.
Yeah.
It's plausible. That's my favorite word. Plausible.
Hey, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think the mandate and the focus is going to be on upgrading this run game. And obviously you're not going to do that by drafting an inside linebacker. So if the board falls the right or wrong way and Zayvon Collins is there, I can see it. It's not impossible, but I would be surprised. And by the way, Bengals are releasing Geno Atkins, a long-time great player for them, kind of falling off, but Geno Atkins getting cut.
Boy, David DeCastro, not sad to see him go. That guy was always David DeCastro kryptonite, wasn't he?
Really good player in his prime, but injuries. He's 33. Really, slowed him up, and he was a non-factor last year.
Yeah, how old is he now?
I think 33.
Man, where's the time going, Alex?
I know.
Let's see. Where? Let me see what. 32. He'll be 33. Happy birthday in 9 days, Gino. Hit the road.
Get out of here. Yeah, NFL, man. It's cruel business.
Yeah. Let's see here. What else do we have? See if we can fit one more in here with Brian Kaiser writes in, Tuitt won't do it. I was just wondering if Tuitt hasn't been restructured yet because he won't agree to. Players do have to be willing as well, correct? I'm sure this isn't the case, but it crossed my mind, so I had to ask. Also, I would be in favor of cutting Ebron, try to get JuJu back, then hopefully re-sign Jesse in a draft pick. He's right along my way of thinking there. Canada's supposed to be creative. Can't wait to see it. Brian, I just think, I honestly think that they're just waiting on. I think Tuitt's just one of those do it later and do it as late as possible, maybe because of injury. I mean, could it be? I don't see why Tua wouldn't want to do it, right?
Some people have been asking, is the whole 17-game season throwing a wrench into this? But you said that's not an issue, correct?
I mean, even if Joe Corey has said he doesn't view the whole possible 17-game thing being an issue. Here's the thing too: a lot of times these contracts anyway have clauses in them that the team can restructure them if they want to do them. Now, I don't know if that's specifically the case with in Tuitt's case here, but I think I've heard in the past that the Steelers like to do contracts where they have the right to and. You know, the only thing you have to work, it's not like the player's losing money in a situation like that. It just becomes, if anything, it guarantees the player's job too for that season by doing that. Now, I guess one downside would people would say, well, it increases his cap charge in future years, and that makes him more likely to be cut. Does it? I mean, the player's still scheduled to earn X amount of money. Why does his cap charge have anything to do with why he might be cut? Either such as the case with Vince Williams, who got restructured, and Joe Hayden, who we talked about. Either the player's worth what you're going to pay him in a given year, or he's not. The cap charge is only the difference of the proration, and you have to eat that as dead money. So stop looking at players as, well, they're going to probably have to need to cut him because of his cap hit. That's such BS. It's what is the player worth what you're going to pay him in the given year. So cutting a player because his cap number is got high because of restructures does not make sense. Would you agree?
I do. I think you laid that out well. And I didn't realize the Steelers have a mechanism that could let them do a restructure. I thought usually it had to be the player needed to agree to it, but that's good information.
Well, usually in the initial contract is that kind of clause where it gives Joe Corey's got something written somewhere on that, where sometimes teams put that in the original contracts. It gives them the ability to restructure the contract if need be.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I'm not saying that's the case with Tuitt. Look, I firmly believe I will be shocked if between now and the start of the regular season they do not restructure the contract of Stephon Tuitt. I mean, that's almost $4 million that you almost have to have. Where's the rest of the money going to come from? Yeah,
I would have done it now, but I mean, I guess they have a plan in place, obviously, so they don't feel like they have to do it right this moment.
I mean, because I guess that and look. It could be sitting out there and already done, and we don't know it right now. Because
we've been saying that for a week, and I still haven't heard
anything.
Right,
but nothing has hit the NFLPA recently. Now I asked Joe Corey just the other day, specifically, by chance, are you seeing restructures done on Tuitt and or Boswell on the NFLPA reporting side? He says not yet, and that was on Monday.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, I understand there's always that risk of injury, but is there even going to be an off-season program this year? Are there even going to be like OTs and mini camps that you could potentially even get hurt at? I doubt it, maybe. So, I mean, what's the risk there?
Yeah, but, maybe they're thinking about training camp and on into training camp as well, too, because remember, you don't need that money until you need that money last minute. And
but they're going to have the draft pick signed before training camp, so you're going to have to probably restructure to it before camp starts.
Well, I mean, you're only talking about right now the displacement on the draft class is around $2.5 million.
Right, but I mean, you don't think Tuitt's going to get restructured until post training camp?
I'm not saying. I'm just saying they have the opportunity to go that way.
Is your expectation that Tuitt doesn't get extended or restructured until then?
No, I'm just saying that I'm not. I obviously got to the point where I wasn't expecting it to happen before the start of the new league year.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I'm surprised too. So we'll see. It's going to happen. I guess it's just a matter of when.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know. The way they're looking underneath the couch cushions right now, who knows? Look, once again, we could turn around tomorrow morning, all this hit, and there'll be a report later today. The Steelers have restructured the contract of Stephon Tuitt,
Right.
So we'll see. Overall, I understand. Look, here's the thing. I wouldn't get so bent out of shape about it not happening yet, and I don't think it has any. Personally, I don't think it has to do anything with Tuitt not wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think it's a refusal from Tuitt to do it.
I mean, sometimes, I tend to go way down the rabbit hole with these things too much. But to answer the short question there is I don't think that this is it. I don't think it not being done has anything to do with Tuitt not wanting to do it. How's that for a tongue twister?
Agreed.
One last one. Simon Short writes in, hello, with the loss of Hilton and Sutton taking a step up in the depth chart, what do you think are the chances of Brooks Jr. or James Pierre step into the dime role? Would Brooks inside or Pierre going outside with Nelson moving inside? Is one more likely to get the nod than the other, or just Justin Lane maybe still have the edge over both? Boy, I wouldn't want to be Justin Lane right now. I'll tell you that, regardless,
Yeah, it's not looking too good. I know he was a raw guy coming out of Michigan State, but with rookies, usually you get 2 years. The first year you say he's a rookie, he's raw, you pass on that, you give him a pass. But after that second year, you don't see much progress, then you start getting worried. So I think Lane's in a pretty tough spot right now.
What about the others? What about the question about the others there?
Yeah, I think Brooks is probably your most likely dime guy right now. He's kind of playing that slot backer role a little bit, limited action last year after some of the injuries, and I think maybe COVID stuff happened as well. So he seems to be the most logical guy right now. But I'm guessing they'll try to add somebody else, either through free agency or the draft, to compete for that dime spot, because that's a vacant position right now.
Jim Bendis writes in, would it be possible to have Joel Corey on this show and go through the free agent signing process and get his take on the former blah, blah, blah? Look, I'm going to try to effort him, but he's so busy right now with free agency. He gets pulled a lot of different directions with the radio shows, and people sign and want to talk about the contracts and all like that. And why wouldn't you? I mean, he's so damn great at his job, and he does his podcast and all like that. So, look, it's going to get slow where we're going to be looking for things to write about here and talk about pretty soon. So give us a little time. We'll try to get Joel Corey back on the show again. You know me, I'd have him five days a week if I could.
Yeah, he's just a very, very busy man this time of year.
All right, Alex, that anything else you want to add? Any late breaking news or anything?
Let me refresh. I've been refreshing Twitter every 4 seconds for the last week. I'm just getting into the state of it. Nope. No, does not appear to be any sort of news coming across. But anything throughout the day, we'll update it on Steelers Depot.
All right, tease us what the terrible take's about today.
It's actually about Anthony Schwartz and them being at their pro day and kind of what that signals both for Schwartz and just maybe a philosophical idea of just wanting to infuse speed into the Steelers offense.
That doesn't sound like a terrible take.
Is that a compliment? Is that nice thing you're saying about me? Oh, well, thank you.
That comes out Monday through Friday at 5 Eastern time, unless I forget to get it up in time, which has happened. And we accept some submissions from listeners on Saturday and Sunday. We've got already one in for Saturday. So if you got a terrible take that you'd like, we got the Sunday spot still open. 3 minutes or less, give us your terrible take. Record it in MP3 form and send it to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com, and if we like it, we'll use it on Sunday for you. And you can do this every Saturday and Sunday. We're kind of opening it up to listeners to do that, and it's really gone over real well. And we'd like to fill up Sunday too. Like I said, we already have Saturday spoken for us. So once again, if you got a terrible take, you want the listenership to hear it, record it MP3, 3 minutes or less, please, and try to make it as good a quality as possible, and send it to me at theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Easy for me to say. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Once again, email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button upright navigational bar. And also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free version. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Alex, appreciate it. You and I get back together are we going to get back together on Monday or Tuesday? I guess we're going to have to play it by ear, right?
Mm-hmm. See where the news takes us, but Monday or Tuesday.
All right. In the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.